2000 Toyota Avalon idle air control motor replacement. I'm Brian Esser from How to Automotive. I'm going to walk you through the process of changing that out. Okay, to get started, we need to get this air duct intake system out here, and depending on how hard, or so some of these are really, they get hard over age, and you may have to take the top of the lid off, or you may be able to pull the boots off. So I'm always going to try to first just do the least amount of work I can. So I'm going to start by removing the clamps here, and remove the clamp here, and I'm going to try to maneuver this, and I'll leave as much of it hooked up as I possibly can, and kind of just flip it out of my way. And if it gives me trouble, I'll pop the lid off, and I'll pull the whole box forward to give me a little extra room. Sometimes these boots get really hard, and you can't push them together to get them out. So I did end up popping the lid and pulling it back just a little bit, but I went ahead and left everything connected to it, and then I had to remove the vent line for the air cleaner here. So once you get that off, this here is the idle air control motor, and you want to resist the urge of just changing the electrical part, because you can just change the outer part of it, but it's mechanical and electrical. And how these really fail is carbon builds up inside of here, and it has a little hamster wheel like that, the way it works, and the hamster wheel gets plugged up with carbon and it stops working mechanically, but electrically it still tries to function. That's why your car may start and stall without a check engine light. It's because electrically the IAC is actually working, but mechanically it has failed, so it doesn't set the code. So to get this off, what we need to do is start by, this is the dual throttle body system. On the newer ones it has a single throttle body, but we need to start by removing the Phillips screws here and here, and taking this lid off. And I recommend using impact screwdrivers. So I'll just use my impact screwdriver to strike it here, and it'll crack the free, and then you can remove this little cover here. So after getting the top cover off, the next step is I'm just going to unplug my idle air control motor. It has a squeeze tab, just squeeze and pull, and then I'll unplug the throttle position sensor, and then right here is a little loom holder. I'll take that out right there. So after getting those unplugged, I'm going to take my impact screwdriver again and put it in here, and give it a little tap and break the bolts free, the three of them, the three screws free. And then so now that I got the screws out here, this is the last one here. You're going to do is pull it towards you and kind of rotate it out, and as you can see, this little arm here, when you go to put it back together, it has to go underneath here. So when we get to that, I'll show you that. For now, what you're going to do is you're going to now that you got the idle air control motor off, now what you can do is you can take the hoses off. And what I like to do is I like to put little crimps on here, and I'll crimp the hoses here, and that way when I take it off, all my coolant doesn't drain out of the car. I'll show you that now. So a couple inches back, I just put these little hose crimpers on there. Even if you don't have this, you're only going to lose an ounce or two. It's not too much. And I also wanted to point out, when you're doing this, there's an O-ring here. You need to replace it, or you can. I wouldn't recommend trying to reuse it, but it's very easy for it to fall off in the process of putting this on and off. So you got to remember that this O-ring here, and it has a little coolant passage right here that the O-ring seals around. So keep that in mind. And then also you'll have to get a new gasket for the throttle body here, so it's separate, the gasket and then the O-ring. So now that I got my clamps on there, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the hoses. Okay, now that you got the hoses off, the whole throttle body will come off, and you want to flip it up like this, and you want to remove the 4 screws here. And I would use the same thing. I would use the impact screwdriver too and take these out. So I would put it in a vise or against it on a bench or something where you can put it somewhere where you can strike it. They're not very tight, so you don't have to like pound on it to get these loose, but they're really easy to strip out too. And so go ahead and remove the 4 screws, and then when you do, you kind of just want to make sure you look at it how the electrical connectors face it like this, because you can flip it 180 out, and then when you go to put it back together, it won't work. But so go ahead and take the screws off. So once you get the last screws out and you peel it off, you look inside of here, and I actually cleaned this yesterday to get it running. Right here on this little wheel, it spins, and it builds up carbon on it, and it gets stuck where it won't move. And yeah, you can clean the throttle body, and there's the port for it where it sucks the air in through right here on the throttle body. You can clean it, and it is a temporary fix. It'll fix it for a while, but after a few weeks or a month or so, it eventually stops working. You need to redoing it. But if you replace it, you can get years out of it before this malfunctions again. And while you have this throttle body off, I always recommend cleaning it. So go ahead and clean the throttle body, and then we'll put the new one on. We'll change our gasket here, and then we'll put our new one on and tighten the bolts down. And now that you got your throttle body all cleaned up, go ahead and replace your gasket. Take your new idle air control motor. As you can see, the carbon-free hamster wheel that's inside there. Go ahead and install it on here and tighten the bolts down. Now that you have your idle air control motor remounted to the throttle body, you can go ahead and install reinstall the lines on it. Now our lines are hooked back up and the clamps are back into position. You need to change out the gasket here and the O-ring. And one of the ways you can do to help keep the O-ring in is when you put it back in, if you put a little dab of grease, just dab the O-ring with grease and put it on there, the grease will actually hold it in place for you, help hold it in place. And then the gaskets just have these little studs that pilot guides here that sit on, so you just push it on there. And then after that, okay, now that you got your gaskets changed, you can go ahead and put this on. But you want to make sure this little ear on the throttle shaft here hooks underneath here. So you kind of have to angle it a little bit, just a little bit, to get it in there, and then kind of rotate it into place. And once you get it in there and rotate it, actually this little ear here has to go behind this stop too. So you want to make sure it both the front ear and the lower ear hooks behind here, and the upper ear here hooks underneath here. So once you get that into position, you have to kind of angle it, and you may even have to use your and operate the throttle a little bit and kind of get it in the right position. Once it's under the tube, go ahead and bolt it up. And then after it's bolted up, what we're going to do is we're going to work the throttle cable here and make sure that this operates and it doesn't bind. Now that you got to remount it, I just tightened the screws up with a Phillips screwdriver as tight as I can get them with a Phillips screwdriver. And now I'm going to just test it, make sure my throttle's opened up, which they both do, and there's no binding at all. So that part of it's good. So now I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my my crimping tools. If you use them, do that now. And then you can also go ahead and plug in all your connectors, your idle air control and your throttle position connector. Go ahead and plug all that back in, and the wire loom on the side. Now that that's all plugged in, go ahead and reinstall your air snorkel here, and make sure you double check for vacuum lines that may have popped off, and tighten up all the clamps on the throttle body. And if you just had a check engine light, go ahead and clear the codes and go for a test drive, and that completes the idle air control motor replacement on a 2000 Toyota Avalon. I'm Brian Essick from How to Automotive. I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos and encourage you to subscribe. Thank you again.